Let's read To His Coy Mistress. This is Marvell. Let's read this. This is one of the most famous Carpe Diem poems. Though, like memento would be like a memory. I have these mementos here, remember death. Now, this is also like Carpe Diem, because remember death. Why would you be saying remember death? Well, it's Hamlet. I know this is a dinosaur, okay? But pretend it's a skull. It's Hamlet, looking at the skull and just pontificating on, my gosh, man, this is what's underneath all this. And I will become this in the ground soon. Remember death. Always remember that death is there stalking us. So Carpe Diem, seize the day, pluck the day. It's this idea of transience. We are here for a moment. We just have this precious second. And let's think about something. During this time period, the life expectancy, 40s, these days, I don't know how to say it, except just to say it. Having a child is something you got to be damn sure about. If you're thinking, well, if you're like, it might be, you got to wake up into this world wanting to do that. So anyway, if you want to do it, do it. But if you don't, maybe you have some other song to sing in life. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is this Carpe Diem idea. And why is it different for women than it is for men? Yes. I'm not being chauvinistic. I'm just saying a woman feels, if you want to have babies, I think and I've been told she feels that biological clock ticking, and it's just more urgent. With guys, it's like, oh man, plenty of time, right? But this takes it to a new level and in the opposite direction. Let's read it. To his coy mistress. Had we but world enough and time, this coyness, lady, were no crime. We would sit down and think which way to walk, and pass our love's long day. Thou, by the Indian Ganges side, shouldest rubies find. I, by the tide of Humber, would complain. I would love you 10 years before the flood. And you, if you please, refuse till the conversion of the Jews. My vegetable love should grow vaster than empires and more slow. And 100 years should go to praise thine eyes and on thy forehead gaze. 200 to adore each breast, but 30,000 to the rest. An age at least to every part, and the last age should show your heart. For lady, you deserve this state, nor would I love at a lower rate. But at my back, I always hear Time's winged chariot hurrying near, and yonder all before us lie deserts of vast eternity. Thy beauty no more be found, nor in thy marble vault shall sound my echoing song. Then worms shall try thy long preserved virginity, and your quaint honor turn to dust, and into ashes all my lust. The grave is a fine and private place, but none, I think, do there embrace. Now, therefore, while the youthful hue sits on thy skin like morning dew, and while thy willing soul transpires at every pore with instant fires, now let us sport while we may, and now like amorous birds of prey, rather at once our time devour, than languish in his slow, chapped power. Let us roll our strength and all our sweetness into one ball, and tear our pleasures with rough strife. Throw the iron gates of life. Thus, though we cannot make our sun stand still, yet we will make him run. Okay, good. So let's go back. Thought of as being something that a woman would do. And it is flirting with a person by saying no. That makes sense? So it's like, oh, stop it. Stop tickling me. Stop it. But she doesn't mean like, stop, She means, do it more, right? Absolutely. And that's what I was going to say. Poor guys. I mean, you're supposed to have to like interpret that, but no. Like I said, like he says, like I say, no means no. And so, but look. It's easy to see this in all of history. Look back at Grease, the movie Grease. That wonderful song that they sing together. Tell me more, da da dee 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 da. You know that one? Well, what does she say? Tell me more, like does he have a car? Right? But what does he say? He says, the guys say, tell me more, did she put up a fight? That's messed up, right? I mean, wait, what? You're talking about sexual assault now? I mean, that's not cool. Feel me? So anyway, this coyness goes way back. It's this idea of someone saying no, but yes by saying no. Well, whatever. Okay. Stop being this false shyness. Don't like, just give into it or whatever, right? Okay, let's come out and say it. Dude's trying to get laid. It is what it is. Remember we talked about 80s movies? We talked about all that. It comes out in poetry at this time, right? The raunchiness. And it's pretty raunchy. And so, what does mistress mean? Who is a mistress? You're cheating. You're having an affair. This is your mistress. And that's probably the proper terminology, right? But it could also be like in Shakespeare's "My mistress' eyes is nothing like the sun." What he means, I think, is my girlfriend, my mistress. Not my wife, but my mistress. It also has one other meaning that some people have made a big deal out of, and I just think it's just not there. I'm like, no, I just don't see it. And it's this idea, this sadomasochism type of mistress. I don't think it's there, but nonetheless, people have made a big deal out of that. Had we but world enough and time. Now, the first thing, world enough. If the world was big enough and we had enough time, this coyness lady were no crime. Now, ladies, I hope you're not mad at me when I say ladies like that, because I really mean, hey, young women, ladies, what's up? I don't mean anything bad. But when someone says lady, like, lady, you get out of the line or whatever. That's not happy, is it? Being called a lady, is it? Lady? That's kind of a disparaging term, right? Lady? And so right from the beginning, we see kind of his ill treatment of women. It's not necessarily misogyny, but you can see it leaking through, his lack of respect for women by the whole idea of coyness in general, and also by her being a mistress. And third, just by lady, call me lady. Come on, man. It's like calling a young woman Missy. Hey, you better not do that, Missy. Upset you, wouldn't it? I'm no Missy. Come on, man. Okay. If we had world enough and time, this coyness lady were no crime. Oh, you got to rhyme time and okay. We would sit down and think which way. Now, I want to talk about something I think kind of important here. You know what enjambment is? There's two different types of lines in poetry: in-stopped and enjambed. It's spelled E-N-J-A-M-B-E-D, enjambed. And enjambed lines flow to the next line. And by doing that, it's actually a higher level poetic technique, because when you have in-stopped lines, that line can pretty much just mean whatever it means within the context of that line of poetry. But when you have enjambed lines, you can use, like, it's an economical device to where you can add the line, what the line would mean without the rest of it, without the rest of the grammatical structure. It would mean this, but when you add the rest of the grammatical structure, it means something slightly different or something completely different. That's enjambment. So it's a line economy. And you got to think, you're working with poetry now, so you got to think, the distinguishing factor of poetry from prose is the line. And so you have to think to yourself, well, what is that? Does that mean something? Well, I think in this case, the whole poem is about carpe diem, seize the day, today's the day, go after it, not sex, but life, And that is kind of like a hurry up thing, isn't it? Well, yeah, hurry up. Life's out there. Hey, it's getting away. What does Ferris Bueller say? Life moves pretty fast. If you don't stop and look around from time to time, you might miss it. So that's like a hurry up kind of thing. Well, doesn't the enjambment kind of work that way? Yeah, watch this. We would sit down and think which way to walk. See that kind of which way, and then kind of you kind of, as a reader, you kind of panic a little bit. Do I stop with which way, or do I just read it straight through, and walk? And I don't know. And so in that panic, you feel this sense of urgency. Which way to walk? And that's like the meaning of the poem, which is hurry up, right? Live for today. So that would be an example of what I mean by show me how the poet uses language to develop meaning. See that? The enjambment of lines causes the reader to panic and feel a rushed sense. And then that rushed sense is like the panic you feel when maybe you haven't attained the goals, satisfied the goals in life that you set for yourself. Okay. If we had enough time, lady, you could sit down by the Indian Ganges, the river, and you could find rubies there. Just go and collect your rubies. You'd have plenty of time. Me, I could sit by the Humber. This is the river by where he lived, and complain. Maybe we could be pen pals. Maybe we could send up smoke signals. I don't know. But if we had enough world and enough time, that separation and that time separation and also that distance separation would mean nothing to us. In fact, I could love you 10 years even before the flood. And what's the flood? The flood is Noah's flood, right? And so in the Christian mind of 1650, they believed that this was the time when the whole thing started, was after Noah's flood. At least this iteration, this world started after Noah's flood, which they thought was about 5,000 years ago. I could have loved you 10 years even before then, if we had time. Heck, if we had time, you could refuse me, push me away and be coy, pretend to be modest. until the conversion of the Jews. Now, what does that mean? Okay. So with that, I have these really ultra super religious father and stepmother. I used to ask them, say, I was a young guy, like maybe 10 or 12 or 13. Dad, Christians go to heaven, right? Oh, yeah. What about Jews? Because, Jesus was a Jew, right? Right? He said, oh, yeah. He said, but see, my stepmother would always step in, just say, okay, the Jews are God's chosen people. Chosen for what? Like, man, I can't think of too many great things that have happened to them lately. What are they chosen for? Okay. So see, well, did they go to heaven? Well, just not really, not right away. When? What's the deal? Okay, so look, when Jesus comes back and the apocalypse happens, they are the chosen people to do his work during that time. And then at the end of it all, he's going to save them, and then they'll all go to heaven afterwards. Oh, okay. I'm not saying I believe that, and I'm not saying that's true, but I'm saying that's what I was told. Okay, so he's saying that, look, if we had time, you could refuse me until the conversion of the Jews. No big deal. And then, of course, you got to have some phallic metaphor in here. So here we go. If we had time, my vegetable love should grow. Excuse me while I throw up a little bit. My vegetable love should grow vaster than empires. Vegetable meaning, slow, but also meaning, I don't know, whatever you think. And then 100 years. 100 years should go to praise, and then we're back with the enjambment. Go to praise thine eyes, and on thy forehead gaze. So here, now, this is a blazon. Remember the blazon? You're cataloging a woman's body. It's not a happy thing. It's not a good thing. This was from the Italian troubadours, the poets who, with courtly love, say, oh, your eyes are like the stars. Well, first of all, it's just not polite to sit there and enumerate someone's body. Oh, and then second of all, the comparisons that they're making is stupid, Your cheeks are like roses. It's kind of weird. No, and then third of all, it's very aesthetically shallow, He's not saying, we get along really well. I enjoy your company. I think you're funny, and you get my jokes too. And, I think you're super intelligent. You're more than a match for me. And we have lots of great conversations. I just enjoy my time with you. I really think you're a good, great moral person with a beautiful soul. None of that, right? I'm going to gaze at your eyes and your forehead for 100 years. Okay. And then, not only that, but 200 years for each breast. Stop. I haven't finished my 200 years yet. Now you have 500 years just getting to here, right? And and 30,000 years for the rest. So what are we up to now? Oh gosh, that's a lot. And an age for every part. How much is an age? I don't know, whatever. Now, this is interesting to me because he says, and the last age should show your heart. That's the first time you said anything that's not aesthetically artificial beauty, like just skin deep beauty. Now you're going to say my heart. And how long's an age anyway? And you didn't really say, you said the heart, but I mean, okay. So he doesn't talk about love. It's basically just carnal desire, isn't it? Okay, fine. But think about this. The institution of marriage, really most of the time, was to several things. was to protect women first, was to give women certain rights, privileges, abilities. It sucks, but it was so. It was to consolidate the power and wealth of families. And it was, for women, it was their one big shot, pretty much. Then, not now. So in the midst of all that, not a whole lot of love was involved, you know? A lot of times it was arranged, you know? But that doesn't mean that women didn't hope for the best. They didn't hope, they hoped for love, you know? Not that, they're just regular people. They're not any different than we are today. But women couldn't own property. Women couldn't, certainly there was no voting, but certainly, you know, women didn't have the rights and privileges and things that they do today. And I'm glad that we're getting better on that. But marriage was the one avenue, one shot that she had. So what does that mean? It means she has to preserve her chastity. What does that mean? It means she can't have sex before marriage. Because why? Because men, jerks. And a lot of men then would say, I can't marry a woman that has ever had sex with anybody else. That's another chauvinistic thing, isn't it? Sexist thing. In high school, I know it's not right, but in high school, guy gets a lot of women, has a lot of girlfriends. What is he called? And I hope this is not true, but I'm going to speak from my perspective in the 90s. Girls, young women who just say it had a lot of sex were not called players, you know? And that was very wrong. It was very wrong. And if the guys had only knew what they're doing, when you shame young women like that, you're only pushing them farther away from you, you know? I hope it's gotten better these days. I hope it's not, because that is such a double standard. And I hope for the sake of my daughter, who could probably hear me right now, I hope it's getting better at least. I hope it's gone, you know. Sex, I mean, look, guys, sex, we know this is a basic human instinct, right? I mean, look, if it stops, what happens? No babies. No babies, what happens? The world ends. So literally everything depends on it. And yet, some people feel very strongly that it should be saved for marriage. Some people feel differently. It takes all types of people to make a world, doesn't it? Right? And we shouldn't be shaming each other for our decisions about that. Okay, but anyway, it takes all kind of people to make a world. Now listen to this. For lady, you deserve this state, this dignity, which is not a dignity at all. It's a dignity for me to stare at your boobs for, what was it, 400 years? That's a dignity? Man, this was written by a man, wasn't it? So anyway, but at my back, I always hear time's winged chariot hurrying near. Now, this is where it gets kind of good for me right here. Warfare, you would have people walking into battle, you know, with their spears and their swords. Here comes the chariot, and it was like the battle tank of the ancient world, because you have one guy driving the horses, and you have another guy with a bow, you know, and arrows. He can get around behind the enemy, and they can't chase, you know, they can't catch a horse, right? And so you just devastate an army with chariots. And then you had chariot battles, and Rome was big into it. Egypt was big into it, that kind of stuff. Alexander the Great. So a chariot is an implement of war, like an AR-15 or something would be today. So he's saying, I always hear, and he has, look, I know he has an uppercase T for time. And I know that you'd probably say, well, it's just the beginning of this line, but I almost think he would have capitalized it anyway, because time would be like this divine influence that's coming after us in a chariot, and you can just see him firing its arrows at us, right? all the time. The slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, right? And it's always there, coming near. And yonder, all before us lie. Now look at this word, lie. It's one of those words. It can mean, there's two senses of lie. Repose, to lay down, and also to tell a fib. In this case, it could probably work either way. It's a double entendre. It's a pun. It works in two senses. And what is a pun but a word economy? So look, and yonder all before us lie. You know how I'm always saying, and I swear I didn't plan this, but you know how I'm always saying, and I think Carlo takes exception with this sometimes, but I say past is a dream and the future is a lie. Only today's the day. Well, look, and yonder all before us lie. It's a lie. Deserts. But you're back to the line economy with the enjambment. All before us lie. Deserts. A vast eternity. And then you have another enormity there, because you want to say lie, eternity, and that creates more panic in the reader. What should I say? Should I? And then that's like the theme, which is hurry. It's like, ooh, I feel a dread about the future and what will come. Thy beauty shall know. Okay, so now these, we can also bring in the imagery of dryness, decay. What's more like dryness? Dust, deserts, ashes. Dust, desert, ashes, all those things. You might think ashes to ashes, dust to dust. It's the drying up of life. It's the end of life, right? But before us, we have this vast eternity. And no more in that place will thy beauty be found. Yeah, man. Your beauty will be not found there. How about this? Nor in thy marble vault shall sound my echoing song. Well, he thinks a lot of himself and his echoing song, But anyway, this is like his desire, his lust. And then listen to this. As if it wasn't. In the future, you'll be dead. Then worms will try that long preserved virginity. So this virginity that you're so keen on preserving, look, you're going to die tomorrow. And then the word try, it means to test or penetrate. So the worms will try that long. Ew. He just had to go there, didn't he? So there's an image for you. But what does it mean to say the youth? Well, let's finish it up. And into ashes all my lust for you, The grave is a fine and private place, but none, I think, there do embrace. There's no more love in the grave. No more embrace. What does it mean to say youth is wasted on the young? I don't believe this, but people have a fault, like to the point where he didn't buy anything. Not just that he didn't spend a lot of money. He didn't spend any money. He didn't pay for my college. He didn't pay for my car. He didn't pay anything. He gave me, I think, $40 a month from the time I was maybe like 11 up until I was about 14. And that's all I ever got. And, he would do these things like he would go and buy, if there was a sale on corn or ramen or beans or fish sticks or whatever, he would go to the store that day and he would purchase a crate of it. Bring it home. There you go, Colin. I got 10 cents off of this, And so I'd be eating corn. The dude he's like mental about money. I went one time, I said, Dad, I was always working around there. We have a little ranch kind of thing. I was always working around there and fix this fence. Dad, I need some nails. Oh, they're over there. Went over there, it's just a hit, like rusty nails from 1945, you know. He has never bought new nails. He didn't buy himself new clothing. I'm talking like the dude had old work clothes for, I think his wife sometimes forced, you know, like bought him something, but like he would not dream of spending money on clothes. Dude shopped at garage sales. Say, Dad, you got some sunglasses there. Yeah, I had to pay 5 cents for them. So during that whole time, he sacrificed. I sacrificed. My sister sacrificed. And he saved up $250,000. He had that in the bank. And he was humming along, investing in Sears and just safe stuff like that. Then the dot-com bubble came along. And he really started making money then. But, you know, the same thing that takes you up brings you down. Eventually, he invested in the wrong companies. One company was called Tirex, who said they had figured out a way to take the iron webbing out of tires, and they were going to revolutionize the world and blah, blah, blah. Another one was called Satcon, and it was a satellite communications company. He invested in those two things and some others, lost his entire life savings. I think it was around $300,000-400,000 at that point. What I know was the $250,000. I don't know how high it ever got. In my mind, it was $250,000 that he saved up and lost. It broke the man. Broke him. I mean, he just... And so I learned something so valuable from that. And it's this. If you get a chance to buy yourself a new pair of shoes, you know, if you get a chance to go have a steak at a nice restaurant with someone you love, if you get a chance to show someone some small kindness by paying for a car or something, if you get a chance to do something nice, go see Paris, by God, you should do it. Do it. Now, you should never follow my advice with money, but I'm going to tell you anyway. I learned something so valuable from that, and I take it to this day. Man, today is the day. Today is the day. In the future, you never know what's going to happen. Look, guys, we didn't see the internet coming. Like when I was in high school, my teachers didn't have email, for crying out loud. You know, we didn't see that coming. So what is it that we're not seeing coming right now, right? And so just like Henry David Thoreau says, you're storing up goods that thieves will break in and steal, or that will rot, you know? So today's the day. Youth wasted on the young. You know, right now you are in the most social situation you'll ever be in. You think like, oh, I just want to get out of high school. I just want to get to college. And that, like college, that's when things really start that's when life starts. But the thing is, as you get older, you have this, like, pretend you have like we actually had a phone list, like a piece of paper you kept in your wallet with all your friends' phone numbers on it. So your phone list was like this long, you know, you're rolling. But then as you get older and then you end up with like 2 or 3 dudes, some old friends, you know. Right now you're at this apex where you're beautiful, your body is as good as it'll be, your mind, you have this fluid intelligence, and it all converges at once. And think about this. Think about if you just woke into this world one day. Think about that. And you didn't know any of this stuff. Just think about what a wonder it would be, right? You'd be like, oh my God, that is so cool. You know, everything would be majestic to you. Oh my, look at what? Oh, right? And then when all of that was not exciting anymore, you'd be like, your friend would be like, you want to go walk around the block? Yes. Yes. Right? Yes. and then when that's no longer exciting, what do you want to do? You want to go ride the Vespa? Vespa? Yes. Right. You want to play guitar? Yes. You know, it's all new, and everything is so exciting and profound to you. Well, that's kind of what it's like to be young. You know, it kind of is. And I don't want to be negative. I'm not trying to be negative, but as you grow older, your intelligence starts to crystallize. And your opinions start to petrify. And all of the things that you've witnessed and done make all of this banal, make it benign, make it not exciting anymore. And interesting. And the sky is the limit. Like the world is your oyster, you know? When you're young and like I said, you're beautiful, you're strong, you have this fluid, like rapid fire intelligence, and you're in the most intense social situation you'll ever be in. You got all these people and all these friends and all that. And that's what people sometimes mean when they say youth is wasted on the young, because maybe, and I'm not saying this is true, but maybe you don't have the experience, wisdom, and foresight to appreciate it or to embrace it. People who reached the pinnacle of their life, the moment they caught that touchdown in the big game when they were 18 in high school, and then it just went downhill after that. You know, like I know people that, and that's so sad, because it's like, I mean, I guess it's their own fault, right? I mean, because they could make their life any way that they want it to be, but like that's their glory moment, and then from then it's just, that's pretty sad. Okay. Now let's finish up. He says, and therefore, while the youthful hue sits on your skin, he's talking about almost like pheromones, where the younger you are, I guess he's trying to say the younger you are, the more sexually excited you get. And later on, that's not going to be there. Hamlet said that too to his mom, if you remember, which is, I don't think, true. I mean, it's just, anyway. Now let us sport while we may. And I do kind of like this. And now, like amorous birds of prey, amor, loving birds of prey. So before it was the winged chariot of time that was devouring them. But now he says, let's turn it on its head and let's be the birds of prey. And rather at once our time devour. So we are going to turn on time and devour time as loving birds of prey, rather than let time chomp on us.